Oh, yeah.
Hey, buddy, what the heck is that?
Why, this is a hole, good sir. You see, I am a sponge, and we typically...
Not that. That. Could I try some?
Sure!
Amazing. I've got to tell someone about this.
Raw honey seems to be all the rage nowadays, with people in the health space constantly arguing that it isn't just an excuse to eat sugar, but an evolutionarily consistent, highly prized food by our ancestors. So what's the deal? Is raw honey really the magic potion we've been told, or is it just an excuse for health nuts to satisfy their sugar addiction? First, we need to distinguish between raw honey and processed honey. Raw honey comes straight from the beehive and is not pasteurized or adulterated. Processed honey, on the other hand, usually referred to as just honey, has been heated and stripped of all of its unique properties. Processed honey is just sugar. In order to see if raw honey is better than sugar, we need to know why sugar is bad to begin with. Who better to answer the question than Dr. Robert Lustig, the anti-sugar king himself?
So what do you got? You got hyperglycemia, hypertension here because of the nitric oxide reduction because of uric acid, which is the endogenous inhibitor of endogenous endothelial nitric oxide synthase, hepatic insulin resistance, dyslipidemia, muscle insulin resistance, obesity, atherosclerosis, and leptin resistance because of the insulin resistance. What do you got? You got metabolic syndrome.
Whew, that was a whole lot. I'm just going to go with metabolic syndrome. I'd also like to throw in increased food intake, oxidative stress, gut and dental problems as potential reasons you'd want to avoid crystal meth. I mean sugar. However, as we will see, every way that refined sugar can cause problems, raw honey has just what you need to handle it. Much of the hubbub about sugar comes from associational and mouse studies. These are both inherently unreliable at proving causation in human beings. Rodent studies are very helpful in a variety of ways, but mice seem to be affected by sugar much worse than humans. Sugar is 1 part glucose and 1 part fructose. It is the fructose part of that equation that seems to be problematic. A meta-analysis of human trials studying fructose feeding in an isocaloric setting showed that there were no significant differences in body weight, so this assertion that eating sugar on its own will make you fat isn't true. However, we should know by now that simply being a normal weight isn't going to protect you from disease. One study gave participants either a liter per day of soda or milk and found that soda drinkers gained significantly more visceral fat, the kind of fat that surrounds your organs and is considered much more problematic for your health. For a myriad of complex biochemical reasons that would bore you to explain, refined sugar when consumed in excess wreaks havoc on the body. The problem is that if you're eating refined sugar, it's pretty much impossible not to eat in excess, as trials have shown that sugar increases sugar and overall food intake. In fact, people love their sweets so much they'd be willing to give up good old cash money just for another sugary meal. This study gave people either a flavored glucose or fructose drink, then asked them afterwards if they wanted some processed garbage food or the money. If they said yes to the food, the money they could receive increased. What'd they find? Well, not only did the brains of the fructose drinkers light up like a Christmas tree, they were also much more willing to give up the dough for some sugar. They also reported being more hungry despite ingesting the same amount of calories as glucose drinkers. However, when we look at honey, the story is different. This study randomized people into either consuming honey or table sugar and found completely different effects. Those consuming the honey ate significantly less total food and sugar, and also didn't have the increase in triglycerides that the sugar group experienced. That ravenous, I need it feeling you get after eating sugar is likely way less if you just replace it with raw honey. One of the main problems with refined sugar is that it is just that, refined. It provides no nutrients whatsoever, even though it requires the use of those very nutrients it lacks in order to harvest that energy. A highly rewarding and nutrient-deplete source of energy is the perfect combination to overeat. Conversely, honey has a solid amount of vitamins and minerals packaged in with that sugar. However, this doesn't begin to capture some of the properties of honey. Honey is packed with thousands of unique anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and antipathogenic compounds. Humans have used honey for thousands of years, not just as food, but because they knew of these medicinal properties. Another key issue with refined sugar is that it has profound effects on the gut. Refined sugar can induce dysbiosis, which is a microbial imbalance in the gut. The environment of microorganisms in the gut can influence a slew of physiological processes in the body. In the case of refined sugar, there is a reduction in microbial diversity and an increase in gut inflammation and permeability. When the intestine becomes permeable, antigens known as lipopolysaccharide or endotoxin can enter the bloodstream, where it begins to cause systemic inflammatory problems. However, this study showed that mice taking an antibiotic alongside high sugar feeding returns their blood endotoxin levels back to normal. If only there was a way to eat the sugar and the antibiotic together in one whole food. Oh wait, that's literally exactly what raw honey is. Due to the antipathogenic properties of natural honey, mice fed honey will actually experience benefits to their intestinal microbiome. Honey also contains short carbohydrate chains that can act as probiotics. So yes, if you give a mouse a cookie, it will destroy its gut. But if you give a mouse some raw honey, the gut is protected and even improved. The Hadza of Tanzania are a hunter-gatherer tribe that has been extensively studied, mainly because of their gut health. They have an incredibly diverse set of organisms and are basically considered the gold standard for a healthy microbiome. Interestingly enough, if you ask them, their favorite food of all is honey. Something important to consider about fructose in general is that it is almost exclusively metabolized by the liver. A few unique things happen because of this. One of the metabolites exclusive to fructose acts as an activator of glucose breakdown. This means that if you eat a combination of the two, you will actually burn the energy more efficiently. It can also shuttle carbs into your liver glycogen faster than if you were to eat glucose on its own, and into your muscles at about the same rate as if you were to eat the same amount of just glucose. However, because of these same reasons, fructose can also have deleterious outcomes. Large amounts of fructose ingestion can lead to the production of excess reactive oxygen species and inflammatory mediators. Once again, raw honey proves to be productive in these regards. Raw honey has been shown to increase levels of various antioxidant defense mechanisms in the body. One study took a look at mice on a high fructose or high raw honey diet. They found that even though their body weights ended about the same, the raw honey group did not experience the same level of oxidative stress. Raw honey has so many unique compounds, most of which we don't even know about yet, which probably explains why those who consume it have better outcomes than those consuming straight sugar. It is also known for its anti-inflammatory action, so much so that it outperforms prescription-grade steroids in certain contexts. Human studies show that honey once again outperforms both refined glucose and sugar, resulting in less inflammation and greater insulin sensitivity. Again, this is another reason why eating raw honey uniquely combats the deleterious effects of sugar consumption. Eating a lot of refined sugar may also have you visiting hell, the dentist, more often than you'd like. We already know that sugar can lead to bacterial imbalances in the gut, but this is also true in the mouth. Consumption of raw honey, on the other hand, can lead to a healthier oral microbiome and better dental health in general. One study found that in comparison to prescription antibiotics, raw honey was more effective at inhibiting the growth of all of the pathogenic oral bacteria studied. Tooth decay can initiate if the mouth becomes too acidic, and this is often due to consumption of alcohol, coffee, and refined sugar. However, raw honey leads to significantly better pH balance in the mouth in comparison to refined sugar. In fact, raw honey has shown improvements in clinical plaque and gingivitis scores. Refined sugar makes us susceptible to overeat, causing visceral fat accumulation, insulin resistance, inflammation, oxidative stress, and gut problems. Raw honey makes us less likely to overeat and therefore doesn't lead to the same metabolic outcomes. Oxidative stress, inflammation, and organ fat accumulation from sugar all lead to insulin resistance and numerous other health problems. Raw honey quenches the oxidative stress, calms the inflammation, and doesn't leave you with a soda belly. Sugar fosters the growth of pathogenic bacteria and facilitates an unhealthy gut balance, but raw honey kills pathogens and supports the gut. Bacterial overgrowth in the mouth and overacidification can also be the result of eating too much refined sugar, but raw honey supports a healthy oral microbiome and pH balance. So yes, raw honey has sugar, and sugar is bad, but if the honey provides you with all the tools you need to combat what the sugar does to you, is it even a problem? I think the answer is pretty clear by now. Wow, it's almost like eating whole and unrefined foods was the answer we needed all along. Who would have thought? Don't let them fool you. Subscribe to our channel.
Wait, your back started hurting from eating apples?